extending the moratorium is what that's about. So, with that, we have a motion to approve the agenda. I make a motion. Mr. Nuss, we have a second.
I'll second.
Ray? Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have our agenda. In the packet, you have the January 8 and 29 board minutes. Someone want to make a motion to put those on the floor, please?
So moved.
Okay, just take them away a second.
Second.
Mr. McQuinn, any discussion? We will approve them together then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Landis, the last two meetings approved. Any communications?
No,
Since we have quite a few, I think we'll be speaking comments from the floor. I'm going to ask you to limit it to 3 minutes or less. I will let you speak. I'm going to have our supervisor of assessment take notes. Then when you guys are done, I will have her to answer questions as stated. We can't really do a question and answer session at this time because I don't really want to have a till midnight meeting. Okay, first.
Stan Jenkins.
Good evening. My name's Stan Jenkins. I saw in the news some stories about assessment issues, and just a real quick background. I spent 10 years in the Board of Review of Champaign County. I was 8 years as supervisor of assessments. And then I went over to the Department of Revenue as Bureau Manager at the Department of Revenue for all things relevant to property tax issues. I spent the last 20 years of my life trying to explain the property tax code and issues around property tax, and hopefully with some success. Now I'm retired, so of all those different Board of Review supervisor assessments, working with the state of Illinois and retirement, I recommend the last one the most. So, I've done this in a couple of other counties when things have come up, and I've been asked just to offer what I can. I'd be more than willing to meet with individuals. If you have a group of people and want to sit down with me, I'm happy to do it. If you have county board members, a group of you that want to sit down, as long as you're not violating open meetings numbers, be happy to do it. Half of the battle with property tax stuff, it seems like many times, is just understanding it. Doesn't mean people are going to like it when you're done talking about it, but half the battle is just understanding it and what goes on with it. And I've got a lot of problems with the property tax system in this state. I don't like property taxes any more than anybody else in this room. Believe me when I say that. But it's part of what we do, where we live, and the way the system is set up. So with that, I'll make the offer. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, you can find me. I can leave phone numbers for folks, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
James. Danasso.
Hello, my name is James Donasso. I'm from Coles County, Illinois. I'm part of a group called the Concerned Taxpayers of Coles County. I'm the business owner down there, and I saw on WCIA Channel 3 News some issues that came up in York County, and I decided to contact Mr. Nuss. We had a discussion over the phone, and it sounds to me like there's some similarities between what possibly is going on in your county and what is going on in our county. We have filed a federal lawsuit against our county, and it sounds to me from the limited information that I've been provided with and that I've been informed with, I don't know all the details, some of the things are going to be different, but we are in the middle of a federal lawsuit with our county because our 14th Amendment rights have been violated, and our county board has also violated the Illinois Department of Revenue rules. They've already admitted it in documents. And our court is going, it's going to be heard, hopefully. It's in front of the Court of Appeals right now, 7th Circuit. We feel very confident that it's going to get into the district court and will be heard. I'm not an expert like this gentleman is. I never worked for the Department of Revenue, but we went to the Department of Revenue twice, our group. And I can tell you right now that in Illinois, there is a burden on the taxpayers. And there is a lot of inequity in the system. And yes, no one likes paying taxes. I know it's a way of life, but we are the most heavily taxed with property taxes in the nation, Illinois. And the people can't give anymore. And yet our governments are broke, and yet they want more and more and more. I know you can't print your own money, and the state can't print their own money. I get it. And I'm not an anarchist. I'm not against paying taxes. But what they've done in Coles County is violated Illinois Department of Revenue rules. And I can just tell you this much. I don't know your supervisor assessment. I don't know all your situation. But if you have rolled the taxes on a township, and you're on a quadrennial assessment, and you can feel free to pipe in on this if you want to when I'm done. But if there are townships, because those quadrants are supposed to be drawn according to township lines. If there is 2 townships that share a service like a school district, and you roll the taxes on one township, and the other township is not being taxed, then you're in violation of the 14th Amendment. In our particular case, Mattoon Township was assessed after not being reassessed for 16 years, and they wound up, we ran the statistical analysis, they wound up paying 70% of the increase in the tax burden for that school district. That is a violation of Illinois Department of Revenue rules. I believe it's on page 16 of their handbook. Okay, well, I can provide that handbook electronically to anyone who wants to read it. There are certain rules they have to follow. And if the county didn't do its job for a certain amount of time, they can't just roll in and do whatever they want. There's rules they have to follow. They haven't done that in Coles County. I hope that this board would come up to speed on the rules and make sure that everybody's following the rule of law, because when we started digging, we started FOIA requests, and we started finding out what was happening in our supervisor assessment's office and with our county board, we found that things were not right in Denmark, if you know what I mean. There were rules that were being violated. Most of the taxpayers, it's such a complex system, most people don't even know how to protest or appeal the tax. So I would just encourage the board to become educated on the issues. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. And I'm not here to talk about taxes. My issue of concern is exactly like it was just a few months ago. Thank you for putting a moratorium on new wind turbine applications. And I understand that the moratorium that you passed a few months ago is due for being either renewed or expired. I'm asking you to extend the moratorium, and the reasons for that is because for the reasons you put the moratorium in place a few months ago, none of those have been resolved. I've not seen any proposed change that will give your county the teeth that you need in your law to defend the rights of the citizens to be able to still have their television reception, be able to still sleep in their homes, have any sort of way to force the wind company to fix roads and those types of things. And in regards to how much longer to extend it, I think that your board has an election coming up within the next several months, and there may be some turnover on your board, and whatever this board does should not saddle the next board with a situation where the ordinance is still inadequate. So I ask that you keep in mind, for the ones that are short-timers on the board, maybe let the next board decide what you want to do. And therefore, I think it would be very appropriate to extend your moratorium either another 6 months or 8 months. And the reason why I drove all the way up here tonight is to reiterate that I don't want any family here in Ford County to go what my family went through, where we were not able to sleep in our home at night because the turbines caused us severe sleep deprivation due to the noise, just due to the noise of the turbines. Thank you very much, and good night.
Kirk Allen.
Thank you, Chair. In regards to your public comment, is your adopted policy 5 minutes or 3 minutes?
We've been doing 3.
What's the adopted policy, do we know?
We normally don't let anybody to speak.
You normally don't let anybody speak?
No, we don't normally have anybody that wants to speak.
All right, so you don't have an adopted policy?
Just 3 minutes tonight.
All right. My name is Kirk Allen, co-founder of Edgar County Watchdogs. As an organization, we've helped root out 294 public officials to include numerous attorneys representing public bodies. There have been 168 indictments from things we've exposed, of which 8 of those were federal charges. Of those indictments, 20 have been found guilty, 148 pending trial, and 1 not guilty finding during a bench trial. Our track record's pretty solid. Several years ago, we exposed a laundry list of illegal acts by the former Fort Iroquois Public Health Department and their employees. During that time, we were ridiculed as being crazy, accused of publishing false information, and even had cease and desist letters issued at the taxpayer's expense. 2 separate forensic audits validated everything we ever reported on. I don't know if you folks ever saw a copy of those. A computer forensic audit revealed the most disgusting actions by those employees I think I've ever seen in any public body. I'll leave a copy of it with you. I want you to know we intend on digging into the assessment issue, as we've had a well-grounded history in that area that includes the recent exposure of 35 counties and 55 assessors illegally holding office because they did not have the credentials to be on the ballot. That was a failure on both the township clerks and the county clerks. Coles County taxpayers are currently in federal court due to a 14th Amendment constitutional violation. We've been assisting those people for over a year, and it appears the very same thing may be going on here. Based on a few discussions, it appears your supervisor's assessment has now qualified to be removed by the county board under 35 ILCS 200/310 for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in the performance of the duties of the office. We've been told the following, and if true, the reference statute can be applied and you can fix this problem before you end up in federal and state court with a taxpayer lawsuit like Coles County is facing. Supervisor appointing assessors to townships. Don't know if that's true, but that's what we were told. She has no authority to appoint assessors, only people to assist those assessors. Supervisor not keeping her office open is required under state law. We've been told people couldn't file their appeals because the office was closed. Supervisor not ensuring uniform assessments in accordance with the Illinois Department of Revenue rules, and failing to hold the annual meeting. Any one of the above are grounds to terminate the supervisor of assessments. Several of those above that specifically non-uniform assessments is an equal protection violation of the law under both our state constitution and our U.S. Constitution. Such a violation can land the county in state and federal court and cost thousands in taxpayer money. We ask that you hold your supervisor accountable to the law and do what is right for the property owners and taxpayers of the county. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, here's a copy of the audit. I don't know if you folks ever were issued a copy of that when that finished or not. I would encourage board members to read that. Thank you.
Rob Perry.
Me.
Good evening. I'm one of the concerned taxpayers of Coles County. I'm here to visit, try to make friends, not enemies. We've been 14 months at what we're doing. It's not been pleasant. And I'm here just to kind of aid the people around this table and tell you a few things that I think you need to do. Now, whether you do them or not, that will be up to you, because our county doesn't seem to want to dig in and listen and learn. So this is kind of crying out to you board members. If you don't understand what's going on, I'd ask for an explanation from her, because she knows what's going on. And without, and the system does. What we hear down in Coles County quite a bit is, well, let the system take its course and do what it's going to do. there's a problem, the system, and I'm talking about the board of review and doing the complaints and doing all the things that you do. It's in there for the taxpayer, and it works when it's right. But when it's wrong to begin with, we're getting the answers from the standpoint of it being wrong as the system starts. And if it's wrong in this section, this is what you need to fix before it gets to the end. And that's what we're facing. As far as from the supervisor's assessment, I hope that you've got an open door policy, and I'm hoping that anybody that comes to you, that you can plot out what you've been using or how you've been doing things. I don't know what type of software program you're doing, I don't know, but all of that stuff needs to be out in front of them and explained to. And if you're not willing to do that, there's ways of making you do that. So all I'm saying to you is, don't go down the wrong road. Get educated, ask the questions, and try to talk to the taxpayers, because here's the deal. If it's not right, and the assessments are wrong, you're going to run people out of here. And that's not what you want to do. And yes, we do have to pay our fair share. I'm not having a problem with it. But let's get it right. Right means the right thing. And that only does better for you all sitting around the table and the people that are here that are against what's going on. So good luck, and I hope you work it out. Thank you.
Richard Schlesman.
Hi, I'm dear Ford County Board, Ford County co-workers, news media, citizens, friends, and guests. I'm using this opportunity to speak to you all as the village president of Roberts, Illinois. I want to address two concerns that village residents have related to me. We at the Village of Roberts have recently adopted a set of zoning rules which have been given to Ford County Clerk's Office. And Matt, I put them in your mailbox, but his grandpa has passed away, which I'll reiterate later. But these rules were adopted and enabled our village to have their own zoning ordinances similar to what home rule communities have. There are 191 home rule communities in Illinois that have the benefits of home rule status. Municipality automatically becomes a home rule community when its population reaches 25,000 people or greater. A home rule community can enact and enforce zoning regulations and building codes. Home rule provides local towns with a measure of self-government if local government accepts the terms of the state of Illinois legislation. Appendix A of our zoning ordinance is identical, minus the county references, but the villages, to those of Ford County, because we're familiar with those. Appendix B of our ordinance is identical to that of Rankin, Illinois. Rankin is a village of approximately 990 folks, and our neighbor to the east of Ford County, but it's in Vermilion County at the intersection of Route 9 and Route 45. Rankin's ordinance regulates the establishment of wind farms near their small community. I was told by someone that adopting such an ordinance may be illegal. I have not found this to be true, according to Roger Eubner, General Counsel for the Illinois Municipal League, Jerry Zarley, paralegal for the league, and our attorney we have hired to steer us through this arduous and expensive zoning process, Philip Lutkehans. Philip Lutkehans is the managing partner of Sherratt, Lutkehans, and Garner, LLC, located in Itasca, Illinois. Phil has been the lead counsel in over 50 trials and was a lead Republican lawyer in the impeachment trial of former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. Roberts has been following the steps to create zoning ordinance, a zoning board, and a zoning plan commission received from Phil's firm, to the letter. These steps are according to ILCS 5/11-13-2. The zoning ordinance in Rankin was adopted in 2012 to some fanfare from Butler Township, but I believe there was no contest to the ordinance's legality. There was one.
No, I see it in a minute.
Oh, okay. That's a minute. Okay. The Village of Roberts has no fundamental issues with wind farm projects, although we do have some questions and concerns. Is $10,000 per wind tower in an escrow account enough to demolish a decommissioned windmill? If the wind company or companies that own the wind farm is sold, who will pay for the decommissioning? Does the cost of removing each windmill include the cost of foundation removal? I just came from a demolition company for 5 years, and we're concerned that the $10,000 could be used for that removal alone, for 200 yards of concrete below grade. Will property owners that the windmill sits on be responsible for the cost of removal of the windmills? Will the EPA allow someone to cut down a windmill like a tree would be taken down? Or is the oil reservoir in the generator of the windmill a concern? Who will pay for each? Oh, that was it? Well, I'll just pass a copy of this around. So, there you go. I'll send one that way and I'll send one that way. I was afraid of that. That was only one of my concerns. The other one was the assessment. I don't know if we can do a do-over or not, but here's that.
Ronald Ford.
I'm gonna take my camera.
Okay.
I'm Ron Gordon, and just to let the county board know, since your last special meeting, I've had meetings with the state's attorney. I've had conference calls with a couple other attorneys looking over the statutes that are posted for assessments, for board review hearings, for supervisor of assessments. I have also asked Patricia to post a notice tomorrow morning that the board review will have a meeting Thursday at 10 o'clock to go over some of the statutes and determine part of the process that we can do this. We've also, along with our state's attorney, attended a meeting down in Springfield with the Department of Revenue to try and go over what the best steps were to try and work on this situation. So we are working on it. We've also been around to look at a bunch of the properties and are proceeding as quickly as we can with what we've been given to do.
Howard Haley.
My name is Howard Haley and I'm from the northern part of the county, and I have heard, and I don't know if it's rumor or not, but there's going to be a very large solar farm built in the Piper City area. I don't know if there's been any meetings held as far as public meetings for getting input or not, but that is one question that I have. Another concern of mine is with your ongoing problems with EDF, the wind farm company in the northern part of the county. I know this has been going on for, what, a year, roughly. There's only one way to get their attention, and that's to file a lawsuit. Once you file a lawsuit, you have to do it, then they will talk to you. Otherwise, they will just keep putting you off and off and off. So, that's all I have for tonight.
Mr. Chairman, quick question. Do we have a solar farm ordinance period?
No, you do not.
So they can't build one then, end of story.
We're dealing with that in the resolution too, to put a moratorium on that.
They can't build it, we don't have an ordinance to allow it.
Cindy Gerke.
Sorry.
They just do
it without an ordinance.
Good evening. It has come to our attention, mine and my mother-in-law's, that the Office of Supervisor of Assessment was closed on 3 separate occasions during business hours. This is a violation of 35 ILCS Code 200-9 or /9-10 of the Property Tax Code. Section 9-10 states office hours. The office hours of the Chief County Assessment Officer shall be open all year during business hours to hear or receive complaints or suggestions that property has not been properly assessed. This statement can also be found on page 13 of the I-BR Board of Review Manual. These closings occurred within days before the deadline when people were to turn in appeal forms. I know there was a few people that came in to file those forms, and they were not allowed access to the office because of these closings. This is not only illegal, but I think it's unacceptable. office of this county to do that. The treasurer and circuit clerk can verify the closings, as well as other staff at the courthouse. They all were well aware that the door was open because citizens came into their office to ask about it. Yeah. In addition, the Ford County Record, we asked them to scan their past issues to find public notice of the annual meeting of supervisor assessment. This meeting is where instructions on the uniformity of functions are to be presented and available to the public. If this notice, the paper could not find any announcement in any of the papers. They're supposed to have the notice of the annual assembly should be published not more than 30 nor less than 10 days before the assembly in a newspaper published in the township or the tax assessment district. And if there is no such paper in the newspaper published in the county and in general circulation in the township or tax assessment district. At the time of publishing the notice, a press release giving notice of the assembly shall be given to each newspaper and commercial broadcasting station whose main office is located in the county. The assembly is open to the public. I am going to do a FOIA to make sure that this was not done. If it was not done, this is also a violation of ILCS 35 code, or 35 ILCS 200/9-15. The position of supervisor of assessment is one that requires a lot of integrity and public trust. In light of recent events, I would concur that public trust has been broken. Therefore, I am asking for the resignation of our supervisor of assessment, or that the board look into removing her from office. I have given Mr. McQuinn information on 2 people that are willing to help cover the vacancy in this office. I also have been told that possibly Mr. Chuck Warner, what's his last name? Warner, might be an option to ask to come in and cover. He was past supervisor of assessment. That being said, tonight I'm also here asking the board to please extend the moratorium for any new wind farm applications until a new updated ordinance can be in place. We do have an active wind farm company named Apex that's wanting to expand their plans. And I think it's really important that we protect our citizens. Thank you.
Ann Erkey.
Hi, I'm here tonight also to ask the board to extend the moratorium not only on new applications, but renewals of special permits for wind farms. I'm going to present for the record an article concerning lawsuits against Cass County, Indiana, over the 1,000-foot setbacks from homes. These are the same setbacks that are in our current Ford County wax ordinance. Their lawsuit states, quote, "Private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation." It further states that the regulation measuring setbacks from residences is, quote, "unreasonable, and therefore the ordinance should be declared void," unquote. This is basically what has been shared with the board previously about trespass zoning, and I'm not going to leave this, it's my only copy, but we did share this with you before, showing how all the other properties are impacted by the one that has the wind farm, and they're non-participating. With the information presented here tonight, and with the problems occurring across the country and locally in the Kempton area, I believe the board must be extremely cautious and diligent in revising the wax ordinance. We must adhere to the mission stated in the Ford County zoning ordinance on their intent and purposes. Quote, "For public health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare, conserving the value of property throughout the county." Also, in lieu of the information presented concerning the problems with the current assessor, I ask for her to step down for the good of the county and its residents. Thank you.
Rex, is it Putnam?
Dukeman.
I'm sorry, Dukeman.
I'm with the Concerned Taxpayers of Coles County, and the one thing that we've been doing for the last 14 months is, when it all started, we tried to get our board to actually do what was right for our county. Unfortunately, they didn't feel like they had an out. We gave them examples of outs, and they ignored us. So that's where we're at. For 6 months, we actually pleaded with them to do what was right for our county, and they chose not to. So I would ask all of you to think about what's being asked of you, and make sure that you make that decision yourself. If you're seeking legal advice also, make sure that it's actually, you think if it's not right, maybe you should find out from someone else if what they're saying is accurate. We went to the Department of Revenue last year, and we asked them, if they do not roll the taxes in Coles County, what is a penalty for the county? There is none. So it's entirely up to you. There is no penalty if you do not roll those taxes. Okay? And if you don't believe us, then go visit the Department of Revenue, because they'll tell you the same thing. They could care less what happens in your county as far as your assessments. You do them every 4 years, yes, that's what they ask of you. If you don't do it, there's no penalty. So do what's best for your citizens and your county, and you'll all get through this one. Thank you.
Roger Galandi.
Roger Galandi, I live up northern part of Ford County, right in the middle of the wind farm. So I would plead with you to continue the moratorium. My other concern was when I was filing an appeal for my son's house in Kimpton, which is just 1,500 feet from the windmill that the town allowed to be put up. And that I asked a question, and I was informed that they would not be able to answer any questions or help me any way when I filed the appeal, which I thought as a taxpayer's office, they should be allowed to help, or answer a question at least. That's was my concern. I mean, this house in Kimpton, my son bought it from his grandmother after his grandmother passed away in 14, had a state certified appraisal done on it. It sold for $5,000 more than that because one of my siblings insisted that's what it was going to be. And in the process of filing an appeal, I spent $325 to have a state certified appraisal done again. Which, in this case, his job took him back to Southern Illinois, and he had a renter in there, and we found out that there's about $10,000 less value now to what he's destroyed. So, but the wind farm, please go slowly and protect the people there. Thank you.
J.J. Stone.
Hello, I'm JJ Stone. I'm a project developer with Apex Clean Energy. I've been working with Apex for about 3 years now. I believe you're familiar with my colleague Erin Baker, who she's presented here before. She's currently on maternity leave, so I thought I would come and fill in for her. As you know, we're in the process of developing the Ford Ridge Wind Project out in the Sibley area, which we plan on being a 250 megawatt project. We currently have 135 landowners currently participating, with increased interest from neighboring landowners. We're currently on track to begin financing maybe as soon as the end of this year, with the start construction possibly in 2019. Our development in this community over the past few years was reliant upon the regulatory certainty that was provided in the existing wind ordinance. However, we understand the desire to want to refresh the codes is necessary, and we simply support doing so in a way which would still enable our business in Ford County. In our experience, the longer matters remain unresolved, the more difficult it is for us to continue in such a risky business climate. We've just seen projects wither on the vine. As you know, communities with turbines have more stable local economies because the new revenue helps them avoid increasing taxes on citizens, improve school systems, update roads, and increase funding to EMS and community programs. Once built, the Ford Ridge Wind Project will represent roughly $500 million investment in Ford County, provide local economic benefits for the next 2 to 3 decades. During the 30-year lifetime of the project, it will provide approximately $60 million to local landowners and roughly $60 million in tax revenue to the county. As we've spoken to our landowners, we've realized that many folks are concerned about the assessments in the area, And we just want to say that this tax revenue generated by the Ford Ridge Wind Farm would allow the county to ease the impact of taxes increased on citizens. I don't want to take too much of your time tonight. I just wanted to come introduce myself in case you have any questions about our project or Apex in general. We are hopeful the county will lift the moratorium on the permit soon so that we can keep our project on track and provide these benefits to the community.
Deborah Evans.
Are you gonna talk up there for 3 minutes? Save 3 minutes. Tell him you'll sign it now.
Okay.
You gotta sign that.
Okay. I'm Deb Evans, and I live in Fort County, Illinois. First off, thanks to the board for giving us this. First off, Pat, I was at the last meeting, and most of your replies was the law. I'm glad that you have the law. I think everybody needs the law, but in nursing, if I just said, it's the medicine, the doctor said, it's the medicine, take your medicine. If the patient said, okay, I want the medicine. If the medicine was what I needed, great. You know what? My patients wouldn't take the medicine because they're gonna wanna know what the medicine's for. Why am I taking it? Patients want to know what the medicine's for. I wanna know what the law's for. What's the law behind it? What's the taxes for? I looked at your books. I printed up every single law there is in these books for these taxes. You guys, look at this. Look at the laws. Look at the tax laws. Read them. You guys gotta know what these taxes are. You gotta know what to expect in these taxes. Guess what? I read it. And there's a lot I don't know. The average Joe doesn't understand these. Just giving us these answers, the law doesn't cut it with us anymore. We gotta know. The assessments that you said that were so far behind, that Candace didn't do, did these things that the required paperwork with the department, did it ever get filed? There's something 35 ILCS 200-9-255, the statement of incomplete assessments. Did that get sent off? I know that that goes through the county clerk. Do you know if that ever got sent off?
Depends what time of year it is. Everything is.
Okay, what I'll do is I will send this to you, and then if you could send it back to me, I'd appreciate it. I just wondered if that ever got filed. Then regarding the assessment of properties that was placed on the cards and the information, I just wondered if it's ever been put in the computer system yet, if you've had a chance to ever put that in the computer system. Also, I just wondered, I know there was a gentleman that had a problem with his assessment, and he was really wanting somebody to come into his house, really have somebody look at his house so that you would know that the house wasn't up to par, that it was not up to what people thought his house looked like. And somebody was going to look at his house, and then the assessor said, Pat said I couldn't do it. You would have to have the police coming with me. Have to have at least 2 policemen come. And I don't understand that statement because this gentleman is not a violent man.
Oh, minute.
Oh, 1 minute? Okay. And then Cindy took care of one of the other questions I had. And the computer system, I really think that if we have a computer system, we need to be able to use it. And then how do we know if things are being kept on cards, if it's a current card or an old card? How do we keep them straight, or if they're being kept falling from the cracks? Also, you're giving notices to owners of the properties by mean notices in the paper of general circulation of the township. I mean, are things being put in the paper? I think it'll be easier for all my questions. There's so much information from the tax book that I think I'm going to have to just give you a piece of paper. There's like 4 pages at this point. But at this point, I really think that there needs to be an investigation or a resignation because there's just too much. Thank you.
Next is
Bob and Todd from MCS to talk about the backup.
You guys, you got 3 minutes too.
Yeah, we hope to be way less complicated than assessments and wind farms. I'm Todd McNutt, President of MCS Office Technologies. Bob Taylor works there. Bob actually maintains the systems over here at the county for most of them. We have put in 3 different proposals. 2 of them are a combo backup solution, backing up locally here, and the other solution is backing up off-site. And we recommend a combination of both. One, so that we have quicker restores if something happens here, and if something were to burn here, then we have an off-site backup in the cloud. The third quote is just 3 new PC systems for the assessor's office, which we gave back in October 11th. So I don't know if those have been presented to you yet. I think we gave those in October 11th.
I did in-person visit the 11th and then a follow-up on the 18th with an updated one.
Is there any detail you want to go into about?
No, I mean, in a nutshell, if you read through that proposal letter on top about the backups, I listed what the current backup situation is and what the detriments of that, what could happen if something goes wrong, the way things are currently backed up. And then kind of went through in detail and listed out what the solution is we propose. The solution that I put in there, we back up everybody's data on the county side on the server that's in the assessor's office. That would be for the treasurer, the clerk. Rick, I think you've got stuff on there. Yeah. So there'd be for all of the systems, not just for one particular vendor's software. I think you've seen a backup proposal for one particular vendor backing up just their software. This proposal would cover all of it, including their software. So if you have any questions, you could go back to us directly at the office or through Amy. She's been in contact with me getting this proposal written up so that we could present it to you. So please let us know if you have any questions on it. Okay? Thank you.
Donnie, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me speak here. I was in Patricia's office a month ago, a little over a month ago, asking her about my taxes on the house, trying to understand them, which I still don't. I haven't gotten a letter, which I know you're in the middle of trying to do, for review. My question is, when I talked to you, you said you just took houses from 1900 to 1945, which that's my category, and just divided square footage of them. And then I believe it was Ron at the last hearing, Mr. Fork, I believe, said there's A through E, you can judge a house, you know, from looking at a brand new house and one that's never had anything done to it. My question that I wanted to find out later is, did you do any of that, or did you just, like you told me in the meeting that I had with you, you just took the square footage of every house and divided it, and to come up with the number you came up with, you know, to raise their taxes, you know, 300% or some less. Did you do every step that was supposed to be taken to raise the taxes up, or did you just do a minimal step to raise the taxes? You know, I mean, you can't have two identical houses 50 years old. One has everything new, which you said has nothing to do with it. Siding, windows, that's just upkeep. The other one's fallen down, looks like a shack. But you tell me that they're the same have the same tax because of the same square footage. And I just want to know if is that true? Is there more to doing it than just square footage? You know, that's my question for you. Thank you.
Dallas Blazek.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say I'm Dallas Blazek with the Ford County Soil and Water Conservation District, and just want to say that we're happy to help assist anyone with questions regarding renewable energies and the effects they have on soil and water and wildlife. And then also that Soil and Water would be willing to assist in any changing or potential ordinances that come up. Thank you very much for your time.
Bryce Decker, he's the last one, Mr. Chairman.
Could I be added to that list? I forgot to sign up. I didn't know it was a, requirement to sign up. I would appreciate it if I could.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Bryce Decker. He is the domestic violence advocate, and he is very helpful with my orders of protection in my office, and we give out his name and number when the people need his services, and he is quick to answer within an hour and a half, usually. So, and he comes to court with them. My office is not an attorney, nor can we practice law, and that's where Bryce steps in.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Bryce Decker. I'm with Courage Connection, is the domestic violence agency I represent. I can go to a court with clients, help them with orders of protection, answer any questions they may have. I can help them find services if they're trying to find safety from domestic violence. I can also refer them to other resources they might need. Let's say they're looking for an attorney, they just have questions. I can also help answer any questions or be a connection to other offices. So if circuit clerk has an issue that they don't understand with domestic violence or they're not sure they can get involved in, I'm available to answer that. I do travel all of Ford County, a couple other rural counties such as Piatt, Douglas, and some of Champaign. So some days I'm not in the county, but I can usually get gotten a hold of pretty quickly. And the circuit clerk does have my contact information. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I hope everything goes well for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, get your ass up.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
He will be the last one now.
Yeah, thank you. John Kraft, sorry I didn't sign up. And well, when I was researching the wind farm issue out of Vermilion County several years ago, some of the things that were always claimed was how much money the county was going to get in taxes, how much better off the schools were going to be, and the fire department, the police department, with all this new money coming in. Well, it really never came rolling in like they were promised. What happened was real estate values went down in certain areas, which reduced property value, which reduced taxes on the parcel of property, and people moved away. They moved to different counties because they couldn't live within the wind farm. Additionally, another county I looked at, or another municipality, was Mount Pulaski. And what drew me to Mount Pulaski was that, well, number one, I was born there. I left when I was 3, so I don't remember the place. I just remember where I was born. But the school district was almost ready to sign a gag order that would last for decades, and through multiple school boards and multiple generations. And I don't know if Apex is doing this. They probably wouldn't tell me if they were. But in this promissory note that they were signing, they agreed that they would receive a certain amount of money a year. And for that receipt of money, they also agreed and promised that they would attend any meeting that they were asked to attend by the wind company to speak in favor of wind farm. And they were promising that no current board member and no future board member or employee of that school district would speak against wind farms or wind turbines.
I have a copy of that on our website. If you would like a copy of that, I'd be glad to give it to you. They declined that right about 2 to 3 weeks after I wrote the article. I had another meeting. I don't know if they signed a new one or got the wind farm in there without signing one. I don't know. But please, before you allow further wind farms, and you see school superintendents stand up there tell you how good they are, fire chiefs, police chiefs tell you how good they are, have them sign. If you ever sign a gag order that requires you to never speak against wind turbines, because you know what would have happened in Mount Pulaski School District 10 years from now, according to that agreement? If a board member spoke against a wind farm, they would have to repay all the money ever given to that school district by that wind farm. I don't know if your current Apex is doing that. I can only assume they follow that probably industry standard practice 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if it is now or not. But when you have a school superintendent or a school board member tell you how good it's going to be after they get wind farms, please have them sign a statement under oath that they didn't sign one of those agreements. Thanks.
Continuing down.
James, that's my copy.
I'll let you speak.
Please make sure. Can you delete that?
Sheriff probation officer,
Get that back.
reports in the packet.
We can read it.
Search clerk.
Everybody's got your packet? Got any questions? Thank you for your time.
Reports in the packet.
Can I have a do-over?
I did hear that they did pay some of the probation salaries. They owe since, it looks like July and through there, so they paid salary reimbursements about $112,500.
The state paid, Ellen was telling me, April to June, which is reflected here, of last year.
In January, they were too, so. Okay. Opportunity for department heads to speak. Want to speak, Pat?
I'm Pat Lyman, I'm the supervisor of assessments here, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that you asked while you were up the podium. First one was Coles County, and they were concerned about how the raise took place and what happened here. I want you to know I've only been here a year and a half. All of this stuff that's going on, a lot of it happened prior to my getting here. There was a practice going around the county that was called sale chasing. It's an illegal form of assessment. And so one of the things that I seen as a problem was the sale chasing. And so that was one of the things that I decided that maybe we needed to make a change about. How I made the raise was not as much important as the fact that what it did was it created equity. It didn't raise one area higher than another. What it did was it took the people who were low on the bottom because when they bought a house, they bought it cheap. And those people who were high on the top because they had bought at the high of the market and it was never changed. And it went on that way for years. And so that's what we changed. It wasn't based on anything to do with having to take a piece of property and just throw it into the air. They were all multiplied by a median value, which is not the high and it's not the low. The end result is something that was very close to the beginning and the end at the end. In other words, if, say for instance, there was somebody in there who had an assessment on their house of $1,200. And in the same category, there's somebody there who had an assessment on their house at $30 a square foot. So that needed to be changed. It needed to be brought to the middle. And that's virtually what I did. So when you do that, you don't make great swings in the money. You just make a change in who's getting the money. Does that make sense?
It's being taxed.
No.
Ma'am,
Okay.
no questions? I did have a question on her process there though. So what you're telling us, the citizens,
No. You've all had your chance to speak.
Did you want to?
I'm just letting her speak. You can talk to her after the meeting or sometime.
okay.
And my office is always open. Go ahead.
Except 3 days.
No, go ahead, speak. No
Oh,
questions.
you let him go later?
No, they've had their chance to speak.
Oh,
This is your time, just
Okay.
generally answer.
all right, because I thought you said you wanted, I could ask him a question if you wanted. Okay, fine. Okay, then, with the Ag County Watchdogs, it said that I have never appointed an assessor to anything. I've only been here for 1.5 years. The assessors that are in place have been there all along. Marcia was appointed by her township area, 2 different townships to take care of that. I had nothing to do with that whatsoever. I've never appointed an assessor to anything. Okay? And I made extra days at the end of the, we had our 30 days was through Christmas, New Year's, and Martin Luther King Day. And at the end of this whole 30 days, before it was even up, I made an announcement that I was going to hold it open an extra 3 days into the end of the month to make up for those 3 days that we were off. And rarely is the door ever closed. And if it is closed, it means somebody went to the bathroom, or for whatever reason we had to shut the door for a minute. But I know that there was one day we were playing in with Sidwell on some information that we needed to get in. And so I stood at the door, and as people came to the door, I opened the door and I talked to them, closed the door, and so just so we could hear what was going on in the video. But that was the only time I can think of that the door was ever closed. And like I said, we made 3 extra days at the end that we didn't have to necessarily do, but we wanted to make sure that people had an opportunity to complain. And I'm very particular about that. I make sure that everybody gets a chance to come in and to talk to me. I've got chairs by my table, my desk, and I invite people in to sit down at the desk to sit and talk to me on a face-to-face basis and relax a little bit so that they can actually come to an understanding. So I do spend a lot of time doing that. And so then I held the annual meeting. I thought I posted it. I may not have posted it. I'm not sure. When I came here, there was 3 people in the office, and one of them had left, and the county board refused to give them back another one, and I walked into the situation anyway. And I guess maybe that's my fault. But we've had a lot of situations within the office where there was a lack of communication. There was a lack of, my computer quit. One of them quit in, I think, September. My computer was on its last leg. I did all the work I did by hand and entered it in as much as I could just so that we could get things done in a timely fashion. And I did a lot of things that were difficult to do without a computer. But we did them anyway, and we did the best that we could, because I felt it was important to get everybody on an equal basis for this year's tax bill that were up there, because there was a lot of people who, due to the sale chasing, had been paying way too much for too long, and that's why I took that on. I know that if everything wasn't perfect, and I apologize for that, and I'm willing to learn, but the problem is, I need something to work with. I don't have good computers. Hopefully we're getting them after 4 months. We'll see how they come through. I don't know. I spend a lot of time in my office, and I spend a lot of time with people, and I think Diane is from our office is there, and she will tell you I spend hours talking to people, trying to help them figure out what they need to do. I spend a lot of time on the phone with the people who have a problem, and like I say, they always come in, they sit down, they make themselves comfortable, we take time, however long it takes, in order to explain something to somebody so that they can understand it. I had a lady who came in and you know, said, you helped me last year, fill out my paperwork. Can you help me again this year? Absolutely we do. We do whatever we can. We are somewhat limited in what we have to work with, and that's been a problem, but we're working through it. And I put a lot of my own money into it last year myself, just so that we can make sure we get through under budget, get through doing what we need to do to achieve what we needed to achieve. And yeah, I didn't complain about putting my money into it, like being a school teacher. School teachers put a lot of money into their offices too. I have also. Coles County wanted me to explain, I wish I had everything that I needed to do what I need to do. I wish that I had everything that was made available to me so that I could do what I could do. It's been a difficult time, but I've worked here evenings, weekends. I've been around doing everything that I can. I spent a great much of last summer and the summer before driving through the different towns and villages and looking at them to see what's there and what was needed, and to make sure that we had what we had as places we could get it. I care about these people. I care about the seniors. I care about the veterans. I care about the people that are here every day. And I do spend a lot of time with them trying to make them understand what they need to know. And it's not an easy thing to understand because, like she said, the book is thick. To get where I'm at, I have 17 years of real estate sales experience. I have 17 years on the Board of Review in Kankakee and County. I have over 500 hours of class time in the classroom itself, educating myself as to what is going. I missed 1 year of getting education because I'd taken all the classes I could take and there was none left to take, so we were not allowed to retake that year, but the next year after that, if you hadn't taken a class in 10 years, you could go back and retake it again, and I took them again. I've tried my best, and if you've ever taken the exam to have my job, it's not an easy exam. It's not something that you just go and pass off one day and just pass. And so I waited for the opportunity to be here because it was close to my family, and I'm doing the best I can. I'm not above learning. If somebody tells me that I'm doing something wrong and we need to do something different, I can do something different. I can work as hard as I can work to do what I need to do. I've been doing that since I've been here. Okay. And Ron Bork also said that he's posting a notice, so he's going to be busy coming up with his board review. That was on solar farm. It's again, this goes back to the door being closed. Like I say, there's two of us in that office. If one of us is out to lunch and the other one has to pee, I go pee. Sorry. But that is a fact of life, and if the door is shut, it's shut for a very short amount of time. You will not find me anywhere, and most days I eat at my desk. And during the time that we've been doing all of this last minute stuff and trying to get things done, I haven't even noticed I didn't need anything until I got back home. So I didn't leave my desk. My desk is there, and I work hard at it. Deborah Iman had a lot of questions. If you want to bring those to my office, I'll be happy to sit down with you and do the best we can with them.
If you give me your email, I'll just email them.
That's fine, that's fine. I'd be happy to do that for you because it is a complicated system. It is extremely complicated. And like I said, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got here. Let's see, that will back up to MCS. And was there, I think that was about it that was there. I know some of you still don't understand what I did and why I did it. But my door is open. You can come in and talk to me personally if you want. You can sit in my favorite chair there right next to my desk and tell me what you want me to know. Because I am concerned about you and I am concerned about everything else. And like I said, this practice of sale chasing has been taking place for years. And I don't think anybody did it intentionally and to do it mean. I think that it was a process that started a long time ago. And it was something that just got carried forward and carried forward and carried forward and never got changed to 2 or 3 assessors.
You're starting to repeat yourself, so.
Pardon?
You're starting to repeat yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
I've got it. Go ahead.
Any other department heads wish to speak?
Chairman, I just wanted to get my copy back of that. I'll make some copies for you.
It's over there someplace.
You don't have time to read all those things. Last 2 pieces of paper in the world for you, aren't they?
Right. We have a motion then to approve the department head reports as given.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Chairman report, community action has met. Basically, they're keeping up with the grants the way they should, weatherization and so forth. Eastern Illinois Economic Development Association was talking about a fertilizer plant being built, I think, in the Coles County area, and they're looking into maybe assisting with issuing bonds. So that's a different thing. I've done other regular reports.
I think it's done.
Is it done? Okay. Okay.
That's what he said.
Verbal reports, environmental, I don't think I know of anything going on. Finance,
Yeah, this last Thursday, the Finance Committee met to review the general fund bills for the month of January.
now they say we get together.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Sure.
That's one, wasn't it?
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gathered, to review the bills, we did not have quorum. We had some either work conflicts or people didn't show up for whatever reason, so we did as much as we could. But, how do you want to go through it? We need a motion to.
You'd like to make a motion to, bills is presented in the packet.
So I'll make that motion.
Okay, you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on those?
Yes. Did those include the computer system and the backup system?
We reviewed. Yes.
We reviewed them, were they considered part of the bills?
No, it's just an invoice at this point. It's just an invoice. We didn't, there's a resolution, not a resolution, but we're going to review those contracts as a full board today. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions? Roll call.
Dr. Ray? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yes. Okay, those are two. Okay.
Do you want to do the review of the cloud storage backup now and then the resolution? Okay. In your packet, you have, and you can speak at any time. The county currently doesn't have a backup system, so if a catastrophic fire were to happen, or a tornado of anything, of any natural event like that, the county doesn't have an adequate backup system to put vital records, tax receipts, things of that nature, back online within a matter of hours. I don't remember, I think it was Bond County that the gentleman used on Thursday had a natural disaster like that, and they're still recovering, and that was well over a year ago. Amy, our county clerk, reached out to two vendors. MCS was one. The other one was CIC, thank you. To give us quotes on adequate backup systems, and those are included in your packet. We can discuss that as a full board now. I will say, if I can find it, bear with me. Okay. For the CIC contract, it says hardware and supplies at the very top for the backup system. Maximum, under item 2, maximum disk storage is 80 gigs, and you said that the CIC representative said that we're quickly approaching that number. So I asked him at the meeting, how much is it for extra gigs of storage, and he said it was for 5 extra gigs of storage, it's $45, well, $45 for 5 extra gigs. He didn't know how quick we would run through that. As far as I know, I don't know if MCS has that same. Are they here? No. I don't know that they offer that same issue. Right, but I'm just saying, if we go over their maximum storage gigabytes, if they're going to charge us extra for that. CIC says they will. They're going to charge us an extra $45 for 5 gigs. Then we go over 80. So, the 6,000 on CIC's, on CIC's bid, the 6,010 number is the initial startup cost, okay? And then the 3,925 number is per year, so it'd be $3,925 a year every year after the startup for adequate backup, okay? As compared to MCS's contract. MCS was not there on Thursday morning at our finance meeting, but they did show up tonight. I'm very appreciative of that. So now it's just a matter of us figuring out which company we want to go with and move forward. So does anybody have any questions?
Would it be prudent of us to have a IT meeting set up soon to discuss this and computer purchases?
Yes.
Because just getting this Thursday, and I don't know if any other, I think Amy's department uses this system as well, this server, and I wasn't available to hear her side of her input on whether or not she wanted to go CIC or MCS, and if there's a preference, and if we have that, like, say, next Monday, for example, we could probably have the gentleman from CIC back, and I'm sure someone from the District United group would be there as well to explain, because I'm not a computer yet. And that would usually be available to discuss.
I think it would be prudent also to encourage an IT meeting.
Yes.
That's what he's going to push Mr. Nelson to on that as soon as.
Yes, I'd like to, that's what we're headed on my.
As soon as possible.
I'd like to do it next Monday night.
Okay,
So,
great.
I'd like to have all parties there.
Okay. From a finance standpoint, these are the final numbers that they had given us for their bids, so. on our
For
end-
storage.
For storage, yes.
I have a lot of questions on it also. We have the 80 gigs, and we're saying we're fast exceeding that. That's as of, it would be too current. I want to know what we would have.
Let's do that meeting, okay?
Now, what time is this meeting going to be?
7
p.m.
Monday. So they can
Mr. McCall, you want to go to the next thing?
Yes. I was approached by our current interim treasurer, Judy Hastings, about her only deputy, J.J. Harmon. Judy is requesting that J.J. Harmon be considered for the position of chief deputy, as she has shown exemplar work ethic during this transition time. She has been very cooperative and very helpful with Judy. As far as the new system that's in place in the treasurer's office, the one that wasn't there when Judy was there, answering questions with citizens, being polite and respectful to the citizens of our county. And Judy has seen all this in a matter of 1 month. So I would assume that she was following the same ethics and hard work and determination that she did in Penny Stevens' office when she was treasurer. I had absolutely no problem with presenting this to the full board for consideration. So if we wanted to discuss that tonight as well, now's the time.
I'll make the motion we make her chief deputy.
Is that on the agenda?
Yeah. Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Yes.
Comments? I think that she's been in the office now a year.
Well over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other discussion then? Roll call.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings? Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray? Yes. Mr. Berger?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Highway.
Highway committee met last Tuesday. Yeah, and included reviewing the bills and recommended presenting the full board tonight, so I would like to move that we approve the payment of the highway department.
Mr. Nuss, seconds. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Insurance personnel.
Yes, we have a resolution in front of you to do background checks on hiring personnel. If anyone has any objections, I'd put that in the motion to pass.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
As with hiring and also interns and so forth. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Okay.
And we have a resolution reappointing our zoning officer. But then last month, we didn't done it without you being here. I'd like to put that in the form of a motion, so he may object.
Let's do a roll call, please. We'll be spending money.
Mr. Hastings? Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yes.
And last, we have the grievance filed by the
FOPs, maybe it'd be easier for me just to send that over to the sheriff. On what we're gonna do.
Or Mr. Berger, if he wants to explain it.
Or Mr. Berger. Good guys.
Basically, you got the paperwork in your packet, but the FOP, the agreements with the, in general, the Sheriff's Department is asking us to pay, I guess it's part of the deductible, but not co-pay. Our attorneys have advised us that this is a better thing to do. So that's where we will stand. But this has not been, as far as I know, approved by the FOP yet. So the question would be if you would want to have a resolution pending their approval, allowing me to sign it then at that time, or else bring it back to another county board meeting.
I would suggest that, sir.
Yes. Sorry to you. Take that in the form of a motion?
I will.
Okay. Second. Mr. Hastings?
Motion seconding.
Oh. You have a question?
I'm just not sure why we need a motion on it.
Because it's going to involve an agreement and spending money.
Sooner or later. Not yet.
Well, some
Just
thought,
advising Randy to wait and get the FOP recommendation before we do one ourselves.
the intention of it was to, if you're agreeable with it, to give me authorization to sign it when they approve it, instead of waiting, say, for another board meeting. That was the intent. But I don't care, whatever you want to do.
And the only reason to really continue on at this point is the fact that there's gonna be a little bit of setup involved, as well as they don't want to allow a lot of money to build up before we have to pay it back to the employee.
That being the motion, I'll second that.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray? Present. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Present.
Mr. Berger?
Yes. Okay. Is that it?
That's all I have.
Overview. Mr. Lotto is not here. We have a resolution again coming up this, to actually get the 4 acres sold to Buck Township contingent upon them getting the construction going and finished in a year. We've run this several times before, but I think this will be the last time. So I make a motion that we would approve that as presented. Somebody want to second it?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the gentleman from that township said he would build within that 1 year.
What's in front of himself?
Yeah, I mean, he said he would.
Yeah.
He was here.
Okay, let's, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution extending the wind farm moratorium to also include solar farms. That is in your packet. Extended 60 days.
I'd like to see that,
The current one's not up yet.
I'd like to see that remanded and changed. I'd like to see this 60-day done away with it, and I would like to see it only on completion of an agreement. Because this could take a lot longer than that. We would just be kicking the can down the road. Let's get it done once and for all, and not have anything done until we get it set.
I think the intention of the 60 days is to have it done, so. You can make the form of a motion however you would like.
I would like to make the motion that we don't have any, we can extend the moratorium until we have an agreement signed and delivered to the board.
Signed by whom?
Us, board members, agreed to and approved by the board.
You want to do that, include the solar also?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second? Mr. May, do we have discussion?
So you're not defining any time period on your motion then?
No. I wanted it indefinite until we get it done. We've had 120 days, and then we're gonna do another 60, and then I just wanna see it
I
done.
heard you saying, so we have a collective understanding?
Yes.
Okay, discussion. I know it's close. Touching up a few things, but. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yeah.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
No. Motion carried. I don't think there's anything else in overview. At this time, did the treasurer determine if farm leases, what is this year?
We discussed this.
This will be the second year of the current lease.
That's what I thought. All right. Okay, Sheriff.
Sheriff's Committee met last Wednesday, reviewed the bills. So I would move that we approve pay the sheriff, the housing, the coroner, and the EMA bill.
Second. Second. We have any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yes. Those are approved.
Okay, we have a resolution in here to allow the sheriff to hire a telecommunicator. This is to replace the one who is no longer employed here. So I, the one who mans the dispatch, yeah, the radio communications.
There's a motion? Just one person?
Yeah.
Just one person does it.
Well, I don't know, you can ask the sheriff, he can maybe tell you.
He's got several.
Yeah.
This is replacing one.
Yeah, it's replacing one. They, originally, when this building was built, they were dual purpose. And we're gradually getting to just special purpose, the corrections officers or telecommunicators, which the telecommunicators are a lower paid position.
Do we have a second?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes.
Dr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hastings?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Okay.
We also have two contracts for law enforcement services, one with the Village of Kempton and one with the Village of Piper City, and I believe there are no changes from the prior year. correct?
No, sir.
Yes, so I move that we accept both of these contracts, Kempton and with Piper City.
Second.
Second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have a motion to approve committee meeting minutes as presented. I think Mr. Nuss, we have a second.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Special assignments, Mobile Region 8.
Tomorrow, 1300. That's 1 o'clock.
Indian Affairs,
We already talked about that.
708.
I think there's a meeting in April. I can't find it in my notes,
But there wasn't anything this last month. Workforce investment. Time, public health department.
The only thing that I have for you this evening is I passed out before the meeting our annual report for fiscal year 17. So you are welcome to take a look at that. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me.
Still have money?
We do. We received our local health protection grant money for this year, so we're happy about that. But we do have some grants that we're still waiting on some payment for. I think we have one program that we still have a little bit of money that the state owes us for state fiscal year 17. But other than that, we're getting, it's trickling in anyway, so.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
How do you feel the grants are going? Are you seeing more movement on them or not, or?
You know, the money coming in?
Yeah. Because I've noticed they're paying some of their bills in other areas, and I didn't know if that was.
It comes in spurts. So we'll get several checks for one program, and then we won't have anything for a while, and then we'll get several payments for another. And so it's just kind of.
Are any programs in jeopardy of not receiving the grants or anything?
Not that I've been made aware of. There's not been any discussion of that at any of the public health meetings or with the senior programs. There hasn't been any discussion on that either. They're actually looking at our adult protective service program. They're actually going through JCAR process right now to add a self-neglect piece to it. There would be an additional piece to that program with additional funding.
Regional Office of Education, neither of us could go. We each got some information, looks like it's business as usual if anybody wants to review it. I'm gonna check it out. 911.
Wednesday night, 7 o'clock at the Claxton Park.
Okay. Zoning.
I know you've been working on it. I'd like to have a meeting on the 28th. I said the 27th, Randy, the 28th would be a Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
At the courthouse.
Yes.
And just to give a little more background, we met, I believe it's 4 times. We did the code. So we had to put, I think, 2 or 3 pages together. I guess changes that we've discussed or they've given me to kind of look into a little further. And it'd probably be a good idea, Dallas, if you or another rep wanted to be at this meeting on the 28th, because we did do a little bit just for the decompaction and resurfacing and things, but your input would be better, especially for like the solar farms that, you know, we don't have a current code. So we're gonna be adopting probably in other counties and then tweaking it for our interests, so. But we do have quite a bit of stuff typed up for it, just not ready to disperse.
Dallas, aren't you working on something similar you and I discussed with your department on?
Correct. The Fort County Soil and Water Board is currently looking at natural resource inventory reports, getting those updated as well as adding a solar sector to it. So.
Did you get all the information you were looking for
For solar?
for the wind farm?
Yeah, we've got several accounts, we just need to tighten it up, and we've got a lot of information about it.
Dallas, when you get that information, can you make it available to us also?
Yes.
Sure.
Thanks so much.
Nothing to report.
Extension.
That last meeting, I was sick.
In the main one, IT.
I'd like to schedule a meeting for next Monday night, 7 p.m. in this room. We're going to bring in all parties involved in this, the two, and discuss the open issues we have with it.
Old business. New business resolution allowing funds to destroy equipment.
Present that. Because we have changed coroners, we have some obsolete equipment like typewriter, the former coroner's signature stamp, some obsolete cameras. So, and because we have set a policy that the board needs to approve any county equipment that's destroyed, we have to approve it. So I move that we adopt this resolution allowing those items on it to be destroyed.
Okay. Do a second.
Second. Had some other business. Okay.
Since it's equipment, let's do a roll call.
I believe we're up to Mr. Lincoln.
Yes.
Dr. Ray? Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Hasty?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Mr. McQuinn?
Yes.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Nuss?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yes.
If I could, sir, if, Rick, if you let me know, or look at that material you want to destroy, maybe we'll get rid of a lot of that to different agencies or even overseas. So I know they look for typewriters and things like that, so.
Yeah, possibly disposed of might have been a better term than destroyed.
Yeah, that's fine.
You sell it.
The signature stamp needs to go.
Right. Yeah, signature stamp.
Okay, please, something for me to-
Yes, I attended a Robertstown meeting, and it was brought to my attention that there was some discussion on, as we all were aware of in the news, Ludlow had that dog issue. Well, they weren't really sure who to contact on if we had animal acting up or something like that within some of the small towns, say in my panhandle and stuff like that. They didn't know whether to call animal control or the county sheriff. Since then, I've contacted the sheriff's department, and they informed me to have them contact the sheriff's department non-emergency phone number, and it would be dealt with. We were just unaware of that in our meeting, and we, as you well know, in a lot of our small towns have an ordinance officer, but not necessarily animal control.
And I believe some of the towns contract with the county animal control department.
They don't do cats.
Yes.
Okay, we have need for executive session, 5 ILCS 120/2C1, personnel issues. So if anybody wants to take a 5-minute break. Yeah. We will.